I am Dr. Sherian Brown from Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. I am here at the ACC Legislative Conference with Dr. Francis Collins, Director of the National Institutes of Health. Dr. Collins, welcome to FITS on the Go.
Well, Sherian, it's great to be here with you, and I hope we can have an interesting conversation about exciting things that are happening in medical research, particularly as they relate to fellows in cardiovascular medicine.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. The first question that we have for you is, what do you forecast in the research funding climate for early career investigators or early stage investigators like us in the short and long term?
Well, it's something that's a source of great interest and concern because, as you know, with the budget for NIH having sort of hit the wall back in 2003, we lost more than 20% of our purchasing power between then and 2015. And the consequence of that was the success rates for funding went down for everybody. But that hit particularly hard in early stage investigators, people who are just getting their research careers underway and establishing their own independent path. We have recently done something fairly dramatic in that regard, just announced on August 31st. And namely, we are going to free up $200 million each year to specifically fund those early stage investigators that just missed the pay line, trying to boost the pay line for those critical parts of our future. And we're also paying attention to those who got their first award, but now they're coming back for their renewal or maybe a different application, because we don't want to lose those people. And we're worried about that as well, what we might call early established investigators. Between the two of them, we'll find money in other places to be able to make it better for those folks to have a real chance at a successful career at a great moment in science. So there's never been a better time to be a medical researcher. We want to be sure that the conditions are right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Collins. The second question that we have for you is, in this vein, what do you say are the current and future funding priorities at NIH, including for precision or individualized medicine and population health?
Well, every Thursday, I sit around the table with the other institute directors. There are 27 of them, as you may know, and they all oversee important parts of our research agenda, including the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, led by the distinguished cardiologist Gary Gibbons. And a lot of our conversation is about how do we set priorities. We try to identify areas of scientific opportunity because we don't want those things to lie there untouched. But we also think about public health need because we understand that there are areas that have a particularly heavy burden on our population and on our economy, and they deserve attention. And we try to come up with the right balance. People interested in this might want to look at the NIH Strategic Plan, which is up on the web, and which came out a little over a year ago, kind of goes through all of the considerations and how we try to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money in a very accessible form, and it's not a terribly long document. It's not thousands of pages. It's only about 50, and it's got lots of examples. So all of that feeds into this. You ask about precision medicine. I confess that's one of my own favorite priorities because the idea of being able to go from one size fits all approaches to prevention and treatment to something that's appropriate for the individual makes so much sense. Yes. And because we have advances in environmental sampling and understanding health behaviors and, oh yes, genomics, we have a better chance now to try to do that. So there's a lot of focus on trying to figure out how to do that across multiple disorders, and certainly cardiovascular disease is going to be a big part of that. You may know about the All of Us program, which is now in its beta testing phase and aims to enroll, starting early next year, 1 million Americans in an unprecedented longitudinal prospective cohort study. Think about Framingham, except multiply it in size by about a factor of 40, and also multiply it in terms of all diseases, not just cardiovascular, but everything. And also think of all the data we can now collect between whole genome sequences, environmental exposures, having everybody walk around with wearable sensors so you can keep track of what's happening. This can be a phenomenally powerful database, accessible to all researchers who are qualified to look at it so we can all learn from it. That ought to be a powerful way to transition from our current understanding of health and disease to something much more nuanced.
That's right. Thank you. And thinking about all of us and how it might apply to the individual and to the population, how might precision medicine and population science interact in precision public health to improve the wellness of our nation?
So it's a great question. And sometimes people perceive that there might be a conflict here because precision medicine sounds like it's just only about the individual, which sounds a little different than public health, which is about populations. I guess I don't see it as a conflict. So for instance, if we come up with a better way to monitor individuals for arrhythmias, using wearable sensors, tracking that appropriately, figuring out how to do the intervention, that's going to help the individual who's maybe going in and out of atrial fib, but it's also going to be a wonderful public health advance in that people who are at risk for that will have an intervention available that provides a better chance of avoiding a significant arrhythmia or a stroke. So it really all fits together. But it only fits together if you've got scale, which is why this All of Us program with its 1 million individuals is going to be essential if we're going to make all of these things happen. By the way, there are more than 50 programs in other parts of the world that are enrolling at least 100,000 participants. And one of our goals right now is to get all of those cohort studies together to have some shared understanding about data standards, about data access, about confidentiality. So then you might have the meta-analysis, the mother of all meta-analyses, maybe with tens of millions of people with this kind of data accessible for research. Then we'd really be getting somewhere.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. A couple little questions for you. One of them is, do you have any additional words for fellows or early career investigators at this stage? The other question is, did you bring your guitar to do that song for us?
Sorry, the guitar did not arrive with me today. I would want to say to fellows, this is an amazing time to get involved in medical research. There's so many technologies that have come along recently that allow us to answer questions that we almost didn't even know how to ask before. And whether that's imaging or whether it's things like genomics or other kinds of omics technologies or the M-health approaches that give you the chance to monitor what's happening in real time to people out there walking around living their normal lives. This is the moment if you want to make real discoveries. And I do know that that's challenging. Another thing I'd point out to, particularly for physician scientists, we are trying to put in place a number of new programs that provide better opportunities to get into research. And the loan repayment program just increased from $35,000 to $50,000 per year for people who are trying to figure out what to do with those medical school loans. We want to help with that too if you're interested in research. And they're the K Awards, the K01s, the K08s, the K23s, all those mentored training programs, which are critical for a success in the future. We want to be the source of support for anybody who's interested in this kind of a career in clinical research. So look to our websites, call us up, tell us what you want to do. We'll figure out a way to make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're thrilled that you were able to join us today.
Very glad to be with you. Thanks. It was a great conversation.
For more videos like this, join us at youtube.com/FITsOnTheGO.